Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit Podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. Hey, Summit hosts, Dr. Mark T. Wade here, founder of Virtual Summit Software and your host on the Virtual Summit Podcast. I am excited for today's episode. We have legendary rock star Pete Vargas, CEO, Advance Your Reach. He's known as the Stage Whisperer, has booked over 25,000 stages, including the White House, and has generated tens of millions of dollars in revenue from stages. Now, for all my summit hosts and summit speakers out there, we're going to be getting into some amazing aspects of how you can finally monetize that speech from your summit. Now, before we jump into that, Pete, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked to be here. Love you, man. And man, just great. I'm grateful to be here.
Now, Pete, and I've known Pete for quite a while. I've seen his success not only grow, skyrocket, and I've seen him on huge stages all across the country, crushing it. But even more so, I've been watching him help entrepreneurs, summit hosts, speakers get their message out to the world. And all of you summit hosts know that's a big thing for me. Your message matters. I've also personally gone through all of his workshops and have implemented the teaching. So I am super excited and super happy to have him here to share those insights with us. Now, before we jump into the summit aspect, Pete, why don't you let our summit hosts know just a little bit about you and your background?
Yeah, man. So I believe stages are the fastest way to grow your business. I believe for all of you hosting summits that are on summits, I just believe summits are one of those stages, those digital stages that you can do every week in your business, every month in your business. And I just believe they're the fastest way to grow your business. Like I have predictably seen this. The fact there was a gentleman who Mark and I have a lot of respect for, Roland Frazier. He just made this 2,000 word post. And in the post, he said, if I were starting in business, I would choose stages. They're the fastest, easiest, low cost, most predictable way to grow your business. And in 30 to 90 minutes, you can generate thousands to millions of dollars. So that's the power of stages. But listen, the reason I'm convicted about stages and why I care so much about stages, including summits, is because of the fact that, 15 years ago, my dad heard a speaker on a stage. And after hearing the speaker on the stage, I was 23 years old. I was a youth pastor in Hereford, Texas. And after my dad heard this speaker on a stage, he came and he wrote me a letter and he asked for forgiveness for the abusive dad that he was growing up to me. And what happened as a result of that is I couldn't believe it because I'm a 23-year-old and I had tried everything to make things right with my dad. And finally, 60 minutes on one stage made him take the action that I had been waiting for him to take. Well, the speaker that was there, his daughter was the first girl killed at Columbine back in 1999. And this is perfect tie-in. He had a powerful message, just like all of your listeners have, and they have currently. His daughter was the first girl killed. She left her family with 6 diaries, a paper called My Ethics, My Codes of Life. He came to my town, and he was struggling on figuring out how to monetize his stages because he was on stages because of Columbine, but he wasn't seeing business being created as a result of it. And he came to my town, he ran into the wrong guy, and I said, Daryl, you're not doing stages correctly. You're just not doing these correctly. And one of the ways he wasn't doing it correctly, and take this for a breakout, a keynote, a summit, a podcast, he wasn't seeing business come in after the fact. You see, I'm not a believer that we do stages for the sake of stages. I believe we do it to serve the people. And when you serve the people powerfully and you have the right mechanisms in place, you will see business come in after the fact. And so we literally helped him, Mark, go in a few short years from an organization that was almost going out of business. They had went from $150,000 in revenues to $50,000 in revenues. So they were going backwards. And in a few short years, we took them into $6.5 million worth of revenues with physical and digital stages being the number one customer acquisition channel for them. And over the last 15 years, as you've known, and there's a stat that you don't know, it took us 15 years in our offices where we booked 25,000 stages directly out of our offices, meaning my team was the one doing all of the booking of those stages. White House, digital stages, physical stages, Oprah, like you name it, we were on it. But in the last 18 months, we set out a big goal at the beginning of 2018. We said our students are going to be on 1 million digital and physical stages. Summits are digital. We said we're going to be on 1 million digital and physical stages by 2027. And those stages are going to generate a lot of business for them. Well, we didn't just put that number out there blindly. We track it every year. And we just got the data back for 2018. Our students were on 47,000 stages since the beginning of 2018. So what took us 15 years to do it on our own to get 25,000, our students have 2x that in just a year and a half. And so I'm excited to really focus on today around all of the people out there that literally don't just host a summit and don't just get on a summit. Make sure that business is created from those summits.
Virtual Summits software makes hosting a summit easier than ever. The only software in the world designed specifically for hosting a summit lets you set up a summit in a matter of hours with no tech skill or team needed. You can try out the Virtual Summits software free at virtualsummits.com. But hurry, this is a limited offer.
Oh man, so much good stuff right here. I have to highlight a couple of these points. First off, I've been through your programs, as I've said, and I've seen the results. I'm on stages all over the place. You've connected me with people like our good friend Shanda Sumter, who I'm speaking on her stage next weekend. And on top of that, I've had a lot of my own students go through your program, and they were a part of those 47,000 stages, were contributing to that. So the results and all the feedback that came back from them was so positive and so incredible. So I'm a big fan. I'm a big believer in Pete over here. And what we're going to get into, well, and also the other aspect we see eye to eye on is about the message. And this is so important for all of you summit hosts and speakers out there. I always say your message matters. The world needs to hear your message. The only thing holding it back is those people actually being able to hear it. So I can't wait for Pete to talk us through a secondary aspect of this, which is if you are on the stage and you're getting the summits or physical stages or any of it, you can't just say your message. You have to have a way to monetize it and pay for the lights, because if the lights go out or the internet doesn't work, you can't be on the digital stage. So let's jump into that, Pete. I've seen this process in action. I've seen dollar signs come in my own accounts because of it. Let's actually walk our summit hosts and our summit speakers through this way of how they can monetize from a summit talk. And now keep in mind, all you listening, doesn't mean you get to pitch from the summit. I mean, most summits, they're not going to let you make a sale. So I'm going to put even more pressure on Pete. How can we make money from a talk where we don't even get to sell from it? So take it away, Pete.
Yeah. So, man, I think it's really, really important. So for all of you, I want to speak to both of you. I want to speak to, let's speak to anybody that's on a summit. Like, here's the thing. First off, I'm not on a ton of summits. I'm on the strategic ones and ones that I have incredible relationships with people. So Mark's a perfect example of that. Just very incredible relationship, but I am on them. And when I'm on them, they're needle movers. And that's because one of the things that you want to do is you want to be able to give away a free resource. We give away a free resource every single time that helps people get a quick win in their business. So for us, one of the biggest pain points to people is finding the summits, finding the stages, physical, digital. Where are these summits? Where are these podcasts? Where are all of these? Well, we went and spent dozens and dozens of hours and thousands of dollars doing all of the research, putting it together in a beautiful resource and giving it to people so that they can actually have the stages. It would take them weeks and weeks and thousands of dollars to go find them on their own. That's our resource. So one of the key things that you want to be able to give and make sure that you talk to the summit folks is like, listen, I want to, I make it a prerequisite, Mark, unless it's a close friend of mine, I make it a prerequisite that I want to be able to give away a free resource. And so that is really, really important. And let me tell you, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, I got that. I've heard that. But the mistake you make is giving away the wrong resource. And so the resource is not intended to get them from A to Z, because two things happen when you give them something that gets them from A to Z. Number one is they consume it. And they don't need you if you got them from A to Z. Number two, which is the majority of the time, they don't consume it because it's too much to consume. It's a 8,000 page book. I'm joking, but an 80-page book or 127 slides or whatever it is. Your intention is to move them from A to B and get them a quick win, a very, very quick win, very, very quick win. And so what is that resource for you? Well, I'll talk about a common friend that Mark and I have, Garrett Gunderson. He's given me 2 resources that have gotten me quick wins. Number one, he gave me a guide on how to rent my house back to my company and save on my taxes. That's a quick win. He didn't give me the financial blueprint to changing my life because he knew I probably wouldn't consume it. So he gave me that. Another resource he gave me, which I'm implementing like literally as we speak, how to hire your kids into your company. Like, I want my kids working for my company. Those are quick wins. Those are A to B. So when you get somebody from A to B, they want to go to Z with you. So I'm not telling you to shortcut them. Please don't hear that. I'm not saying don't give them the goods. No, give them one win that they will actually do, because when they get a win, they're going to want more wins from you. And so it's not just about the resource, Mark. It's about making sure it's the right resource as well.
It's so true. And I love that. I love that you're using Garrett there as the example. Good buddy of ours. Now when we get the resource out. So, and I've made this mistake. I'm actually was just thinking on some of the last summits I've been on, how I need to update my resource that I'm giving away to make sure that it's not A to Z, but it moves from A to B. Now, after we get that, is there a way to kind of set it up? So we get them, okay? We give away the resource, Pete. Now, we're assuming that's an opt-in, right? Everybody, you're giving this away. They opt in. Now they're on your list. Now, how do I actually monetize that? Like, what do I do?
It's a great question. And so now it becomes down to, I just got off the phone with somebody who did this first part well, but didn't do the second part. And let's just say the person that I just got off the phone with is on TV every week in front of 10 million people and a show that's been around for a really, really long time. And let's just pretend that's the person. And we don't have to pretend, but they just did what I just told you to do. They shifted this generic giveaway to like getting them a quick win from A to B. And on the last stage they were on, they got either 1,400 or 1,700 people to opt in. That was a physical stage, but you can do the same thing on a digital stage. So now you have to have a campaign in place that's a follow-up campaign. But well, let me tell you what, if you don't have a product or service, then getting their name doesn't matter. So like, you've got to have something that you can offer them. We didn't even talk about that, but if you don't have anything you offer them, that's the starting point. Create a course, create a coaching program, create a mastermind,
and
create a training.
Let's dive into this a little bit, actually, Pete, because we haven't really talked about this on the podcast before. And we have a lot of people who are just getting started in the business. I know I kind of stopped you in your flow, but you hit a point that I think is so important that I know you do very well. I've actually adopted your entire product suite model into my business. So they may be familiar with this when they hear it, but let's walk through that. How can they come up with a product?
Yeah. So for a long time, we've said there were 8 different types of products. We've actually now realized that there's 10, and I'm probably going to forget the latest 2 because they were 2 that we added to our business this year. So listen, before you collect the lead, you want to make sure you have something. So let me think about this off the top of my head. Number 1 is you can go get paid to do more speaking. So maybe you want to be a speaker. That's the one we advocate for the least, unless you are a bigger company. You want to build a speaking team. That doesn't make sense. The second thing is training and consulting. Now, listen, training and consulting is either providing a day of training or multiple months or multiple years of consulting. And people get paid very, very well to go do training and consulting. The third thing that you could have is fundraising. Maybe you have fundraising and you want to raise funds for private or nonprofit sectors. And so now the summit could lead to them doing some type of fundraising deal with you. The fourth thing is sponsorship. Like, people will sponsor your products, your programs, your services. And so we literally get in front of people to land sponsorship deals. The fifth area is digital products. and resources. This is where a digital course would fall into play. This is where a SaaS product would fall into play. This is where a membership site would fall into play. This is where it's digital and physical products. This is where a physical product that has a good lifetime value would fall into play. So guess what doesn't go into this bucket? A book. Because a book doesn't have, like, supplements are a great type of example of a physical product. So physical and digital products. I'm a big advocate of you starting with a digital product.
Be sure to check out the speaker management tool inside your Virtual Summit software, which lets you quickly and easily recruit and manage your speakers on your virtual summit, literally eliminating hundreds of hours of work. Get more information at virtualsummits.com.
The sixth bucket is services. Listen, we live in a time where people just want you to do the work for them. Financial services, tech services, marketing, advertising, marketing, whatever types of services, building a website. There's never been a time more where if you can just do the work for people, they'll hire you. Like, they really, really will. So that's the sixth bucket. The seventh bucket that I love is your own events. Maybe you're being on a summit to help you fill your own events. The eighth bucket is coaching and masterminds. Coaching and masterminds is the eighth bucket. And then I'll get a little advanced on you today, and just because we added a ninth bucket last year because of the fact that we did it with Grant Cardone. You know this, we landed a licensing deal with him. And so it's where you actually can license your IP. Well, I couldn't license my IP until I got it out of my head into a course and started to realize what my IP was. So you don't start there, but if you become a subject matter expert, other people will license your content. And he's not the only person that's talking to us about licensing our content. And then the kind of the 10th area that we've gotten kind of more advanced with is kind of taking an equity stake. Like, an equity stake becomes another way that you can scale a stage. So I've literally been on a stage where somebody's like, oh my God, you have a genius and I need your help. And I know that they're a major influencer, have a big following, and we could come in there and just do the work for them. And instead of charging a retainer or a big upfront consulting fee, we take a stake in the company. So those are 10 ways you can scale the stage. But for your listeners, like, getting started, I would fall into the bucket of a digital product or some type of coaching program, or maybe a service. Those are the three that I would laser focus on. Maybe it's a digital product, a digital course that you create, and you can do that right with your own summit. You could all of a sudden, with Mark's system, you could literally go create a summit and have your first digital course done. Like, our very first client, one of our very first clients, Axis. People don't think summits can work in all markets, and they're just crazy. Axis was in the faith-based market, and they needed to create a product because all they had was speaking teams out on the road. So they launched the summit in 2016. I don't remember the exact numbers, so these aren't going to be perfect, but they had somewhere around 20,000 people opt in for that summit. They basically provided 30 interviews around people in the faith-based market and how to have conversations with your kids. Like, how do you actually have those conversations, all of those tough conversations as a parent? And they did that, and they had like 20,000 parents opt in. And out of those 20,000 parents opting in, I don't remember the exact number. I think they had and they packaged that as a product. I mean, it was really awesome. And they packaged that as a product. And so they didn't do the summit naively. And they ended up, Mark, they did 6 figures in sales. That's all I know. On a $97 recordings, they did 6 figures in sales. And literally that launched their list. They didn't have a big list. They now have a multiple 6-figure list because of starting with summits. And now they've done multiple summits since then. So summits are a great way for you to launch your digital product. But if it's not a digital product, Mark, I don't want to depart from the whole idea of services are a huge thing. People just want stuff done. And then coaching and masterminds are the other one. So
Yeah, absolutely love that. Now let's kind of circle back a little bit, back to the free resource, right? So I know a lot of us have the free resource or the giveaway to give in our presentation, but we're not setting it up great. Like we're not doing a really good job of getting people to actually want to take it. And I know you have a really excellent kind of process of doing this. Can you talk us through a couple steps that we can do to set up the presentation in a way to make sure that we really maximize that free resource?
Yeah, so people need to, there's a time in your presentation where everybody leans in, and you can't see this on a summit, but we were just recently in New York. Pat Quinn and I were in New York, who's my kind of my co person that does a lot of work with me, and he's one of our head coaches. And we were working with Damon John, and Damon John, Pat goes, "You know the time to give away your free resource, right?" Damon's like, "No." "Do you know the time that you should act, what the content should be revolved around?" Well, this is what we're doing right now. Pat goes, "No, you got to pay attention to when people lean into your presentation." And there's a time in his presentation where people are leaning in because Pat saw it on the video. And so there's that time that people really are engaged into what you're saying and they're leaning in. And at that time, there's a free resource, or they're taking pictures, or they're asking questions in the comment section. "Hey, no, can you go back to that slide? Can you go back to that slide?" That's the time where they're most engaged. And if you can understand when they're most engaged, that means they want something deeper around that too. And the deeper becomes your A to B. So the time specifically, for Damon was when he was talking about what sharks invest in, what they look for whenever they're making an investment. So guess what? We created a guide on the top 5 or 7 things that Damon looks for when he's making an investment into a company, and that you as an entrepreneur need to have all 7 of these things. You see the brilliance in that? You're giving the people what they already wanted. And now you mention it while you're naturally teaching, and then you mention it again at the end of the presentation. And those are the 2 times that you ask. And by the way, another mistake is making sure that the gift is somehow congruent with the product or service that you're going to offer. You don't want them to be disconnected, because your follow-up campaign is giving them that gift and nurturing them for 7 to 10 days with strategy calls or emails or whatever it is that you do. And then the gift is the first part of the bigger system, or the bigger way that they can go deeper with you. And so that's why that nurturing sequence becomes important, that you give some type of promotion or special to get them to take action after the fact. And you make it like 7 days, like you literally make it for 7 days. I've seen some people do something really cool, give people access to one of their courses for 7 days. Like literally have given access to one of their courses for 7 days. And then they take away the access after the end of the 7 days, because they're trying to get them into a bigger system. So that's what you do, Mark. That's how you do it. And you will begin to collect a lot of people's information and follow up with them.
And that's so good. And I love that, how we're talking about keeping it on point. And I love the 7-day aspect. It's enough time for them to not feel like they're, getting kind of bombarded, but they're getting in a little bit deeper. And now they're like, okay, I'm ready for more. So staying kind of on the point of, how we present this, how we get our message across, again, for the resource, I know you have a really great system for getting our message across to people in general. So resource apart, I think it would be a disservice to our summit hosts and speakers here if they don't at least hear this kind of process kind of walk through. So if you'll take us through your kind of signature talkish process.
I'm gonna kind of give you the simplified version of it. So I use this if I'm in a 3-minute conversation, a summit, a podcast, a live stage, a sales call. It's called the Story Braid framework. Don't confuse it with Story Brand, Story Braid framework. We were just with Donald Miller this last week working with him, and I'm like, everybody always confuses my Story Braid with Story Brand because he's Story Brand. So it's a 4-part sequence, and there's 4 parts to it. I believe a strand of 3 cords are not easily broken. That is actual scripture. And the strand in the Story Braid is heart, head, and hands. And so it's a 4-part framework. So whether you're giving a 5-minute talk, 30-minute talk, 60-minute talk, it starts with the heart. That is the first thing that you want to do, is grab people's hearts. This morning I made a mistake, and I know I made a mistake. And I want to tell you what, this works with your kids. This works with your sales calls. This works with anything. And I'm going to come back to that mistake in a minute. But if you don't grab their hearts right out of the gates, they're not going to listen to anything you have to teach them. I mean, they just won't. I just had a meeting planner who said, if you don't get me in the first 5 minutes, I usually walk out of the room.
With the Ever Summit feature inside the Virtual Summit software, you can rerun your summit as if it were live, ongoing forever with one click of a button. This now lets you continue to use your summit forever, bringing in qualified and engaged leads every month into your business. Get more information at virtualsummit.com.
And that's what they told me in a podcast. The meeting planner is the person who controls the stage. And so in this piece, you want to connect with them, human connection, and you want to make sure that they see you as ordinary and extraordinary. Not one or the other, both, starting with ordinary, because you've now given them the gap of what you're going to teach to. Man, I was where you're at with your money, with your health, with your business, with your Facebook ads, with your finances, with your marriage, with your kids. I was there, or we were there. And now we're here. And when they can see that gap, the second part begins to play into itself, is now you teach them your process to move them from ordinary to extraordinary. That's the second part. That's the head. So it starts with the heart, then it moves to the head. You now teach to the gap. And here's the thing, you teach to the gap, and you really teach, and you spend 70% of your time there. You don't tease, you teach. Because here's what's going to happen is you're going to give them the whole system, and they're going to have to make a decision at the end. Are they going to implement it on their own, or are they going to implement it with you? And then the third part is the hands. This is the piece that scares people, that scared Daryl Scott with Rachel's challenge. You've got to have a call to action. But why Daryl got so comfortable with the call to action is because he gave away something for free. And we already talked about that a minute ago, so I don't need to spend a lot of time there. But this is where you give away something for free. And I'll tell you what, it's linear, meaning it's in the third piece of this story braid framework, but I actually do it in the piece that I'm teaching, that I'm going to give away free gift. So in the head section, in that teaching, I will give the free gift away while I'm naturally teaching whatever I'm going to give away to. But the third part is the hands. And then the fourth part is the heart. You start with the heart, you close with the heart. Most people close with the hands and run to the back of the room or do something like that. We close how we started. We close it how we started. And so that is the framework. And the mistake people make is they don't start with the heart. This morning, I hadn't seen my son for a bit. And, instead of I saw him being short with me. And I got the best of me. And usually I would be like, all I'd have to do is kind of speak to his heart, and then he would soften up, and then I could tell him what I wanted to tell him. But today I didn't. I told him what I wanted to tell him, and he completely shut down, and he just kind of didn't hear anything I had to say. And so you want to be the person that separates yourself on summits, on stages, or with your families. Start with the heart. And then kind of walls go down, guards go down. Connection is made. And now you can teach them what you want to teach them. And so that's a practicable principle for any type of thing, that any type of conversation or communication that you're having in life. Too many times we try to go right to the head. You need to do this, this, and this. And it just doesn't work. Employees, family, sales conversations, or summit stages, it doesn't matter.
This is so good. I love the story braid framework. I've put it into all of my speeches. Matter of fact, I was just prepping my talk for next week to get my signature talk ready, and I had the heart, head, hands, and heart implemented in that. So I love it. This is so great, Pete. I'm really, really glad we've had the opportunity to pick your brain on this. But I wish we could keep going even longer. And I know everybody else listening in is thinking the exact same thing. So if you could just let everybody know where they can find you hanging out. And, if you have any other kind of trainings on this heart, hands, heart, the story braid, or any of the other aspect, we would love to kind of jump into it more too.
Yeah, Mark. So what we're going to do, I know you'll have a link in the deal. So we have a workshop, and the workshop happens quite often. And I would really encourage you to click on Mark's link. We have an incredible workshop that dives into all three of these areas that we've talked about today, which is stages and customer acquisition and the story braid. But here's the cool thing that I want to really do for your community is also give them that ultimate stage guide, which has thousands of stages in it. So just Mark and I, we get to do a workshop together. And so, yeah, I would have them just click on that link. And not only are they going to get the workshop for free, they'll get the whole ultimate stage guide for free as well, Mark.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much for that, Pete. You guys can get access to that over in the show notes at podcast.virtualsummits.com/074. So make sure you take advantage of that. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So thank you again, Pete, so much for spending the time with us today.
Thanks, Mark.
And thank you all you Summit hosts for taking the time to hang out with me and Pete. Remember, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software, and your message matters. Be sure to check out the show notes over at podcast.virtualsummits.com/074, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the Summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.